Monday at 12 o'clock on the Afro Hair Science YouTube channel. Oh, what are you waiting for? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening, good people? How y'all doing out there? It's me, your homegirl, Ladosha Wright, aka Key Lolo. Got a little keys, a little bracelets, a little key Lolo jumping off. And y'all know who it is, right? Whoops, wrong finger. There she is, the one and only, the hair oracle, aka Cheryl Morrow. And I flipped it around the other way with the hair oracle first because I'm going to be posting some of our snippets from the podcast last week. I said, woo, Cheryl is definitely the hair oracle. We are on our 10th episode. I mean, these episodes, they just keep coming up so fast. And so we're always excited to be working through these topics. And this particular podcast is so you think you can do hair. This podcast is specifically for licensed, well, I'm sorry. Me. This podcast is specifically for barbering students, cosmetology students, nail students, aesthetics, and so on and so forth. And so all of the information that we talk about is really to help you navigate that process of attending school, or perhaps you just graduated, or maybe you finished taking your test and now you are about to enter the world of work, or in some instances entrepreneurialism. So what we do here on this podcast is we pose the questions and then we give you guys some answers. And the podcast is ideal by none other than our former intern, Ms. Samaria Smith, and she is actually finishing up her cosmetology hours, getting ready to take her state board test here in Cleveland, Ohio. So big ups to Miss Samaria Smith. And also she'll be graduating. So I'm sure she's excited about prom. And then of course she's going to go on to college. And she's going to take her test to become a licensed cosmetologist, because when you're in college, you know, you're going to need a little job, make a little change out here. College is not cheap. And cosmetology and barbering is definitely one of those careers where you can, work and go to school, because the way the career is just kind of crafted. So we're always wishing her so much success. And last week, Cheryl and I was talking in the green room, like, did we talk about this last week? And I was like, nah, Cheryl, I had to look at the file. Like, what did we talk about? Last week, we talked about the challenges that you guys face while you are in barbering and cosmetology and nail techs and school of aesthetics. So there are some challenges in getting this education that doesn't really get talked about, but again, that's what this podcast is for. We also ask that you guys drop in the chat any topic that you want us to cover. So we did that last week, and we actually got a request, and I sent that over to Cheryl, and Cheryl thought that this topic would be definitely powerful, and this came from our viewer, Miss Vaughn Smith. So what's up, Vaughn? We see you out there. She wants us to talk about re-entering the industry. So next week, we're going to talk about that for you. And Cheryl, you thought that was a really good topic to discuss, re-entering, the industry. And why'd you think that one? What are your thoughts about re-entering? That doesn't get talked about, which it really doesn't. So that is a good topic.
Well, because most people are, unfortunately, in this industry, they are looking for other things after the practicing for maybe 5 to 10 years, and they leave. And when they come back, they have to get reacquainted, just more comfortable, and they want to probably specialize at that point. And so it is a good subject.
All right. So, Miss Vaughn Smith, we're going to give you a big old fat round of applause, because again, answer those questions. dedicated to you. And we also understand from listening to the students, and then also we do know cosmetology school owners and instructors, and they often talk about they don't have a lot of time in cosmetology school to cover some other stuff that you guys so desperately wish that could be talked about, because you only have so many hours, and the education is very specific to passing that state board exam, which is really important, because you really don't want to be going to school and then you go to take the test and then you can't pass because the teacher was talking about something else. So sure enough, we got y'all covered. And the topic today is a good one. It's about continuing education. If you are licensed here in the state of Ohio, then this is the year. I think you have until August to get those CEU hours, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I looked up California. California does not have continuing education. Now, you have to visit your state's website. So the information on continuing education, again, is specific to California, the state that is, and of course, Ohio. So you be sure to look up and see what your state requires for you to have continuing education. And so the great debate about continuing education is who should be teaching this stuff, and better yet, who should be teaching cosmetology, period. That's a really tough topic. Last year we did the Afro Hair Summit, and Cheryl, you was just such the bomb, man, that it made me kind of rethink a lot about the education in cosmetology and barbering. So let's start off with that, because we got people who are watching and they are in school. And this ain't no shade on the instructors and the school owners, but you know what? Education is about keeping it 100, and sometimes we have to address those tough issues. I'm still, in the game, so to speak, as a cosmetologist working behind the chair. I'm also a salon owner. I used to provide continuing education, but I stopped. And so, Cheryl, you do lots and lots and lots of teaching. So let's talk about what are some of the challenges that you see in teaching licensed people who are already licensed, and these people are about to graduate, so they're like, I'm gonna be one of those people who's going to need continuing education. So what are some of the challenges that you see in teaching advanced? We'll talk, maybe is there a difference between advanced and continuing education to us licensed folk?
Mm.
So y'all get ready. Y'all know it get white knuckle when Cheryl hit it, Cheryl.
Uh, and this is my experience, not any guesstimation or talking about a world that I wish were. This is totally reality based. It has been my experience. I don't necessarily have a favorite, but I will say there is a kind of a connection to um, amount of information you can ascertain, then amount of information you can retain. And students who are newbies or hairstylists that are maybe in their student years while they're still in a cosmetology school or
Mm-hmm.
barber school, right?
Right.
Um, have the capacity to absorb more, and that is probably because their lifestyle is not as inundated with job and things of that nature as of yet. Um, and also they don't have to unlearn. They don't have an unlearning firewall there.
Ah, you see, you touching people's feelings now. Here you go. Uh, expand on that a little bit. The new students who don't have to unlearn, and us old folk who be sitting in the back of them classes.
And right.
You know
And
the
we're
hell
not
I'm
going to
talking
necessarily say old. What we'll say experienced.
about. Okay.
They've just been in the field a while, and there are different habits. Of course, students have habits that they must overcome. Of course, um, and so so does people who have been styling and practicing for, you know, 3 to 15. They have different set of habits, and they're not things that they can't overcome.
So
Um,
who's harder to teach, the new or those of us who are experienced? In your Now, remember, this is your take on it. Who's the more challenging to teach of the two populations?
um, well, they present a different set of challenges.
Hmm.
Not that one is less or more, but I do think that in terms of memorization, I do think in terms of just because they feel they're inexperienced, they may reference to notes more often. Um, they will remember certain things that, of course, older experienced people have forgotten. I'll put it that way.
Or maybe we just don't want to use it. I find that, as an experienced cosmetologist, I like to refer back to the cosmetology book.
Hmm.
I think it helps refresh, because sometimes, when you are, and we're about to get right into the topic, which is who should be teaching this, hair care companies, or should the instructors continue to teach? And of course, it could be a hybrid, but we'll get to that as Cheryl, hashes this out. You kind of get drawn into some scenarios and some thought processes that are, outside of what we've been taught in school, and then you find yourself going back to the book to just kind of, remind you why why that that fundamental, or what do they call it, standard rather, was so very important. But when we go to cosmetology schools and we talk to students, students, they hate the book. It's like, I'm just ready to just take the test on that. So the cosmetology and the barbering book is not, and that could be said for, I don't know. I don't think I saw too much of that in college, because we really wanted to take those courses. And so the books were always, just, getting to you some kind of way. But the cosmetology and barber book, it's not something that's often celebrated in that cosmetology and barbering educational setting. So, um, what do you think about, the actual book? As we move into, who should be teaching this? Because for me, like I said, I find that the hair care companies, some of their stuff kind of took me away from the standard that, got me going, and I find myself using the standard to just kind of recalibrate some of this bull crap that I was taught.
Hmm. Wow.
But the book, but they don't like the book. I find the book. If you let us know in the chat your thoughts about the Milady's Book of Cosmetology. We see you guys are coming through. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So Cheryl, thoughts about the book and about throwing out the book and trading it for company product knowledge, which is, we're going to segue into that.
Well, I think the book gives you an anchor to always, it grounds you, right? It gives you a zero sum game, and it is standardized, which allows you to pivot to better understand something that could be based in technique, could be based on some products that you're going to be utilizing in your salon. But it also gives you principles that don't change. And so, but it's always a good landing, a good landing page to be able to pivot right or left, depending on what it is that you need to know. But it gives you good foundations, and to be able to make a process of elimination, or a process of determination, a process of diagnosis, a good basis So it gives you fundamentals.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. And I find that to be very true. Especially in this I don't know. Let me just say flavor. And this flavor of natural hair, where
Mhm.
you just see so much made up stuff. I love the way you have been continuously making the statement that they are making this stuff up along the way. And one of the things, and I'm going to get use myself as an example so that you students and or even maybe some seasoned people who might be watching this won't feel like you're alone. Let's take, for example, like how shampoo works, And so in your books of barbering and cosmetology, there is a chapter that teaches us how shampoo actually works. But when you watch some of these YouTubers and these influencers and some hair care companies, they throw you off your
Standard.
there you go. I'll get it, Cheryl. And so now we get into the topic of, companies teaching, um, you know, just teaching.
Right.
And then we're to take that information and apply it behind the chair. And then we'll regurgitate this stuff only to come to, find out, especially after a while, you see that some of the stuff that they're teaching is not really working. And then we're back to the standard. So let's go there. What are your thoughts about hair care companies? And I do have some stuff here. I just brought one example. Teaching um, cosmetologists and barbers. This one is Nordtrust. I've actually been keeping it. I've been actually waiting for this day all my life because I have some issues about this. So, Cheryl, take it away. What are your thoughts about hair care companies teaching barbers and cosmetologists, nail techs, estheticians? Because that's where we get the bulk of our knowledge. Our continuing education, 90% of it comes from hair care companies and tool manufacturers.
Hmm. Hmm. I think one thing that as professionals, or cosmetologists and barbers who hold the license, right? And you are standardized educated in terms of you have received two things, theory and training, right? And those particular theories are so rounded and vague, and they are just some fundamentals. And the training is fundamental, right? But one of the things that is very key here to understand is that you do when you're getting exposed, or you're receiving product knowledge from a brand, that you are not getting, let's just say for instance, shampooing. You are learning about a particular shampoo, but you're not getting education on the category of shampoos. Does that make sense? And so they are not going to teach you about all there is to know about shampoos, soap, detergent, categorical, industrial conversation, right?
And
You
now,
are,
why is that? Why can't the companies go a little bit more into the science of their products?
mhm. Well, you're assuming that the person who has the job to deal with product knowledge, they're connected to what we call sales. Okay. They are there to teach you bottom line kind of sales product knowledge, because at the end of the day, they want you to buy, right?
They
And
want us to buy, or they want the customer to buy?
no, that's why they're there. You buy it from them, and then you use it on your customers, and then they may buy the ancillary maintenance products, but they're there to educate you to be able to, just like pharmaceuticals do doctors.
Oh,
The pharmaceutical is there to educate the doctor so they can write the script, and then they go to TV with the purple pill, so hopefully you come in and ask them about a particular med, and then it'll make it easier for the doctor to write the script because you
now
requested it.
right now, I knew that answer, but I always reflect back to when
Mm-hmm.
I first went to a product knowledge a class via a hair show.
Mm-hmm.
And you know me, I'm always different, you know. Now I'm not gonna say I'm so naive to not think that they didn't want us to buy the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but the pressure to buy this stuff, it was like, how much of this stuff should you buy? Like, how do we, or those who are new, discern, you know, what to buy, what not to buy? So I was really shocked that we couldn't kind of like, you know, get the education first, then kind of mull it over, and then, but the pressure to buy, was like no other with those deals, you know, that you just couldn't decide, like, which one. And so, to cosmetology and barbering students, that pressure to buy the stuff is very, it's confusing to me, but yet we still need it. So, kind of go a little bit more into um you know, why the well, we know why they want us to sell it, right? But if we don't have the a full understanding of the product to be able to make a better choice, why don't companies do the science since they want us to buy it so fast on the spot?
Yeah. Well, because science doesn't sell, hairstyles sell. So they want to give you the sell that if you buy this, you will be able to draw more customers in because they will it, you know, the sale is attached to clientele. The problem is that you have a good segue there because they're not there to teach you how to create your inventory. They're not there to talk about what your clientele, how you match what you buy from them matches your clientele. They're not there to interview you about your business. They're there as salespeople. Okay, maybe they do have a little cosmetology background once they get the sales job, but they're there to meet a bottom line and a commission and things of that nature. They're not worried about can you bear or afford or how are you going to get rid of the inventory, how to also sell it to your customers and clients, because of course they are not concerned if you're good at sales because you have to
So
sell.
so is this bait and switch? Like, now I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying that this is what this hair show or any of them, this one in particularly, but is that an example? I'm just looking for. Oh, here it is. Okay, so you got this big, you know, hair health and beauty show that's gonna, you know, do all these wonderful things, particularly education. But you know, like you said, they're trying to sell you something. So is the education the
Mhm.
draw to get you in there? Because you just said that education don't sell, but people are going to these places to get the education. So is that a bait and switch? Like, we're gonna think, we want you guys to really think you're gonna get this education. When you walk out, on the periphery, you might get a little something, something. But we're gonna drop some product knowledge and you're gonna buy some products. Is that a bait and switch tactic?
Well, I actually said science doesn't sell.
I'm sorry, it's the science.
Right. But you have to remember they don't sell that you're going to be smart and be able to take over your client and be the lead and tell them what to do and how to do it and be very confident in your side chair manners and how you take over the client and how you're prescribing and you're, you know, advising. They're not selling you that way. They're telling you that they're selling you to how much money you can make. So
Mm.
therefore they are not selling you. You know, it's ironic that there will not be any continual education even after they sell you because you still are not comfortable enough to be able to do what they did to you. You do that to your client, right? And so
Right.
you're not as comfortable, but you know there is obviously some gaps in this whole process, and that is what leads to the lack of retailing in salons, the lack of they're there to hope that this particular product is going to make them style better in terms of getting more clientele.
That's a very interesting extraction of how you see things, right? Because you're saying that, the stylist is not able to sell the retail, but the
Mhm.
company is saying it's not that we're not able. These companies are saying that we just simply are not doing it.
Mhm.
And
Well,
so
yeah.
now they're diverting their products into the, like the Walgreens and all this, because
Mhm.
they're saying, well, you know what, we gave you guys some continuing education through, ABC company, but you didn't sell it, Ladosha. So now I have no choice but to divert this into your local beauty supply store and into your local pharmacy.
Yeah. Well, here we go again. Product knowledge. By the time a brand, two people come in, they are actual salespeople. They are only to move the product out of their trunk of their car
Oh,
to
Cheryl, you just make it sound
to
so true.
to right. I make it sound so true. Out of the trunk of their car into your salon. At that point, they are disengaged somewhat in what happens after that, right? The what we always talk about, and especially at the Afro Hair Science Summit, is I have to make you a salesperson. And so I got to give you some behaviors. I got to give you some body language. I've got to give you some techniques of speaking and talking and beauty psychology, cosmetic psychology, and retail psychology. I have to make sure that you're prepared to be able to understand a client, um, and how the real techniques of making money. Those are not what they're there for. They're there for you to listen, for you to be wowed for about, an hour, and for you to be taking notes and, maybe get some one, two, three do's and don'ts. Don't do this, do that. They'll tell you to watch your clock. They'll just give you some really, they'll ramble on. And then at that point, you're supposed to buy the bundle and then you take it to your salon. Now, most times they'll get stuck there, right? And there is no supporting middleman there to make sure that, um, even our behavior. I watch some of the ones that I've trained, the product and their behavior and their body movements in the salon. The customer does not even see what they're using. So they're not even married to the process of what they're using. And so how does that turn over into retail dollars at the end of the day? And when I practiced in New York, in my salon, you bought first. So we went shopping first and why you did this. And so I engage you into the product process even before you get to my chair, because I know the impediments of what students have and what hairstylists have after the hairstylist is over, after the hairstyling is over. You kind of like want to get rid of them because you want to get another client in your chain. You really don't have time to take them through what you used, how you use it, many times, get their email, get how, and you're going to email the instructions. You're going to check in with them on a, weekly basis until they come back. That's a lot to,
Yeah, I think, and I'm sure cosmetology and barbering and nail tech, and skincare students would definitely agree that a lot of times, when we go to these continuing education classes, be it a hair show, or sometimes like they will host these classes at, like, like local hotels, and sometimes even other hair salons. The trick or the catch is when you get back to the chair, and like you said, you got to style the hair or cut the hair. Sometimes, most more times than not, what they taught, it just doesn't match what we are living
Right.
with that hair behind the chair, and you can't call the company. There are only like two companies that I can think of where you can call and talk to real people. And that is Deca Plus and Formisi. You get to actually, like, when you have a color situation, they don't just, with the bots and crap. So these are real people. But even, I'm not trying to, knock Deca. Anywho, for me, see, color is a little bit different, but sometimes it just doesn't match up. And so we just find that education, we sat there and it was like such a waste of time. And now we hate education.
Yeah.
We don't like it because it's not applicable. So, can you help the cosmetology, all of the students, kind of like, what's the discerning process to knowing, or, you know, hold back, don't spend this yet, guys, and how to get more, of what they need?
Right. I do think that we have to be concerned about each and every one of their goals, right? And I'll be the first one to say, and I think I've said it so many times, I believe in the digital education, the Zoom education. I believe into the school education. But when you are teaching something that you want the hairstylist and the barber to remember, right? It has to be hands on because their job is very physical. And so when a job or your career involves so many body mechanics, right? To memorize body mechanics is very difficult. And so that's why we get into the forming of habits that sometimes impede us with the money we make because we don't get the role playing. We don't get it. And so the
Mm,
role playing is what makes the brain don't have to memorize things. And
yeah.
that's one of the reasons why. So, I wish more beauty schools would teach sales, would teach salon body mechanics to the point where they go through the salon, they go through, I remember one, and it's hard to break habits when you're so used to turning your client away from the mirror and you're just really ready to just focus on that hairstyle. You want to get them out and you're just not present. You're not present. And
hmm.
you don't know that everything that you do leads up to them leaving out, spending an extra $50 with you buying product. You forget it, you send them up by themselves to pay, and you're totally disconnected.
Yeah.
Or
I
you
was, yeah,
like,
I was guilty of that. I didn't realize it until I attended, the 2023 Afro Hair Summit. And so, and I was really, I mean, that really, that statement punched me in the gut about turning that client away from the chair and talking to the client, through the mirror. I was like, you really trying to find a way that you could just make me right. But you were like, no, Ladosha. And so these are habits that are extremely, now I'm just speaking for myself, and I know, and I see it in other hairstylists and other barbers, that those are habits that are really, really hard to break. So now we've got a good understanding of the challenges and
mhm,
getting product knowledge from hair companies, in as much is that a portion of it is the bait and switch. Like, we're going to really educate you, but really they're going to just demonstrate, and they want you to sell, right? And so you're not going to be able to get that science that you're looking for, nor will you be able to get that role playing, that those behaviors, that's needed to really elevate your career and get you a little bit more than just the money for the hairstyle. I
mhm,
know. Here's another cosmetologist. I know, in the chat. Oh, girl, she got me on that, Tiana. I was so. I mean, and when you're learning these things
mhm,
outside of, the company, like from you and the Afro Hair
mhm,
Science Summit, you do get this oh Lord response because it never was talked about. So
mhm.
now when you talk about the Afro Hair Summit, Okay. That's
Mm-hmm.
not product driven.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, because now I work alongside Cheryl, so I can just pick her brain because I don't do what she do. But how in a ham sandwich and French toast do you think that you, or what made you create a higher advanced training or education without product sales? Because now you'll have some hairstylists that'll be like, and barbers and whatever. Well, how she ain't selling no products. So
Oh,
so
baby.
what made you want to teach us without products? Because remember when we were creating this, I was like, Cheryl, we probably need to get some hair care companies. And you were like, no hair care companies. And I'm like, maybe just one, no hair care companies. So why
Mm-hmm.
no hair care companies in education for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, here we go again. First of all, you already have about 7 or 8 of them shampoos already,
We have 15.
right?
I'm just telling the truth. The court. We have 15 different shampoos for 24 years. Yeah, I know that's not the
So
norm, but
you did. So you didn't need another one, right? And here we go. Again, the category. I needed you to understand shampoos for the sake of shampoos, not any one shampoo. Okay, and I need you to understand the category. Okay, and because we have so many different styling demands, and shampooing is actually the transferring of one style to the next, which is what they're actually paying you for. All right, and so now we have challenges of removing the stuff that's actually on the hair to making it clean, and so there's a lot of challenges in that. And so that didn't that weren't prevalent maybe 10 years ago or even 20 years ago. Now we have so many more waxes. Now we have so many more oils. So if you don't understand the category of what these things are doing and how dirt and product is removed, then you would not be as savvy as you would be in putting these styling aids back on, right? And so Afro Science Summit takes a different approach and to say that I'm going to be able to tell you the truth scientifically on how something works and not worried about the brand message, the marketing message, why
mm,
this one is better. And then if I can train you on the category of shampoos, now you know what shampoos do, different types of ingredients do in shampoos, why they put them in there, blase, blase, versus just teaching you about a brand. And if you don't use that brand, then you're screwed. And that's not,
right. Now,
and that's
and I can say, from experience. Now we are going to be hosting the Afro Hair Science Summit again in 2024. And we'll probably be starting to show some snippets of what took place, during the Afro Hair Science Summit. But I can just tell you, as a cosmetologist who has going into 25 years of experience behind the chair, it was very challenging to learn without a product, sitting in front of my face to buy, because I was able to see that the product was also a distraction because you was used to all of the performances around the product. Like, let me show you how to put this on the hair, and all the showmanship that comes in using the product. Whereas this time you're going to have to sit and you're going to have to learn. So now you're talking about two different types of teachers or instructors when we're going to be continuing this education. So, with that being said, how do we know who is a good educator of this thing called barbering and cosmetology? Because, like I said, I was like, I'm waiting for the chair. You know how they have the chair inside the hotel, you know, that type of setup, you know. So this time it was just straight, you know, a pen and a paper and a desk. And I'm just like, you know, it was very different.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we know, or what can we look for in the educator, and again, what do you think is missing from those of us who do teach
Mm,
in this arena called continuing education?
good question. Oh my goodness. Let me say this. It was very easy for me to um, form into education and product knowledge at the same time because of course, coming from the school of Mr. Morrow, him being a science first and a scientist first, it was very easy to teach through product knowledge when demonstrating a product because once, and let's just say once, um, I would teach in terms of shampoo. I want you to notice the hair and what it's doing to the hair and why it's doing it to the hair and what you need to do and to would look out for. I don't focus on the product bottle itself.
And you know what? That's good. I got to cut you off. And I think that's good because when we think about how these people come in and they teach us, right? And they'll predict. Well, most times companies will do what they call a model call. So if you're new to the industry, you should know that most companies will do a model call. They'll either someone will respond from the public, or sometimes they will have the hair salon already have a person. Rarely do they just pluck somebody out of the audience and say, we're going to use you
Mhm.
as the model, right? And
Mr. Morrow
so
was good for that.
I,
Pick you is right out there, don't care.
So now you see where I'm going with this, all right? So what would happen is when they pick the model is already, plucked or pre-picked or
Correct.
whatever,
Correct.
selected, I'm sorry, is
Correct.
already selected.
Mhm.
It makes the learning difficult because that's not what we see behind the chair. So when I went to space, and this is a location from Philippalusi, I think it was called, I forgot the acronym, but it stood for, I think, like I forgot the name of it, but it was called Space by Philip Pelusi. And so in this particular educational setting, the cosmetologists had to do each other's hair. And so we were like the only Black people in this particular class.
Mhm.
Can you imagine the looks on their faces when they were told that they were going to have to do our hair? And can you imagine the look on our faces when we were told that we were going to have to do their hair? So go into that type of a educational option that your dad and Philip Pelusi, because that's very unconventional. You
Mhm.
don't get that. I've never even heard any other company doing it aside from right now. Of course, your dad, but than Philip Pelusi. So talk about why is that way.
Mhm.
Maybe I don't want to say better, but in my opinion, it's better than having those people who are already selected.
Well, I think that two things, just for the sake of, it's almost like most interviews, people want the questions before they do the interview because they want to be prepared. But that, like you said, that is not reality. And that is not what the average clientele. And I don't know if you remember interviewing for your documentary, the narrative, and Bessie Taper telling you that Mr. Morrow would pick the worst damaged head in the audience. And that is what we call confidence in his science. And Mr. Pelosi was confident in his theory and confident in his process and in his product. And because you know the category of your product, you know the category of what it is supposed to do, you do not need to prepare for it. It will
Hmm.
work in principality. It doesn't texture profile. It doesn't profile. And because he was there, he could give you some insight of what most likely will happen to your client if he's not around or no one's around. You can pull from real, true information in your body mechanics. Remember that time you had that hairstylist in your chair and you were, so there, that is really, to me, high métier, and that's
Mm.
high art,
Yeah.
because you never forget that. It sticks, and that creates, as we say, a wrinkle in your brain because it really starts to fold because it really sticks in there. And so you have that memory bank to pull from because it was a real contrast, something that was out of your comfort zone, which is really good education in my opinion.
Mm. Yeah, it's a very different education because you don't know what's going to happen. Because we, particularly when you go to the classes and they already have the model selected, it's just kind of like a whole drum
Yeah.
class. Like when you go to a relaxer class, right? I think nothing is more irritating than going to a relaxer class
Yeah.
because I mean, how many different ways can you just put a relaxer on the head? So if we take, unlike hair coloring, that education is like it's infinite possibilities. So let's take a continuing education on something like relaxers. So
Mhm.
why all we get is hairline base, 4 parts, and put it on there. I mean, like, come on, man, Cheryl, we gotta help these cosmetology students out.
Right.
So why is relaxers being taught the same? Oh, darn kind of way. Because again, and I'm not, anywho, take it away about something like relaxers. This is one of those, and I think this is probably why a lot of people don't even want to do those anymore. Not only because of the all of this hype around it is dangerous, but the education on relaxers is just so boring. So talk about that relaxer education or the boring education.
Right. I don't think the industry has any innovation. I don't think that the relaxer in and of itself is different. I think it has maybe has some additional bells and whistles, may have a different fragrance, it may have a different color, or it may have, different, some different steps according to a brand. But the brands are teaching the relaxing. And
I
because
see.
right, because there's really no new technology, and that's number one. Number two, the client's the same. It's either touch up or a virgin. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And so there is no nuances. You know what I mean? There is no new technology in terms of even to stretch, the student or the veteran. You know what I mean? There's nothing that is going to, it's all transactional. It's one, two, three, boom. And so the client is basically the same, it's just a touch up, or it's not any texture enhancement in terms of different results, transition results. There's just no new language, no technology.
Okay. All right. So that's so
Brand,
now. So
brands are
I think some of you guys, because we got some students in the chat now, and I think you guys know where I'm going with this. All right, because we about to wrap it up. We're gonna give you guys one solid hour, and we thank you guys so much. So Cheryl, when we're in those situations, right?
mhm.
How do we tell the company, I got an idea? We could do this relaxer differently, because we just sit there and I'm just, I can't take another boring relaxer class, but I've
I
got some
know.
great ideas for this relaxer. And maybe clippers, you have a great idea for the clippers or great ideas for whatever. How do we convey to a company that we got some good ideas to make this different, or just ourselves? How do we do this?
Well, you have to remember that um, there's supposed to be a difference between you and them. Their prestige, their they're the teachers. They're there to, it's a level of class there. You are to sit there and be quiet, and they are there to teach you. And there is, and I don't think they have access to even the lab or the formulation department in their own company.
Hmm.
So they're not really open to, well, they're not accustomed to hairstylists giving them any idea.
What?
They're not.
Tiana! Hey, hold on before we go into that. Can you show everybody who's watching this show right quick what you guys can do to help change the narrative about continuing education or advanced education in barbering and cosmetology, as well as nails and aesthetics? Show what they could do right now to help change that narrative. Here we go, guys. Watch Cheryl. Ba-ba-ba-da. I'm shocked that your response, because Tiana, she's also a licensed cosmetologist. We work together. She is thebomb.com, and she said the same thing. Well, she just reiterated what you just said, which is she said the class I've had was based on the brand, and the steps were different, like condition first, then shampoo, but it was overall boring. And so we have ideals, and the companies are just kind of like, okay, whatever. Well, they don't even, they don't even ask to hear from us. I mean, like the Afro Hair Summit was a little bit different. I mean, it was so interactive and, blase skippy. But so, and you're saying that the companies, the people who do the teaching, rather, they may not be able to really do anything with that request.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
And two, they're there to create a difference between you and them. They're there to be able to say, get in here, sit down. Hi, my name is blah, 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 blah. I'm a master at this and master at that and master at this. And if you want to answer a question, we're going to have quick Q&A at the end. And then we will go, it's,
I ain't gonna lie, Tiana, don't we be loving them little master, those master cutters and master. They be good. They be all, they just be off the chain. But in the
my name
end,
is, my Dr. Scissor Hands. And we here to do this. And I just want to let you know I am a master at using the rat tail. And I just want you to watch because, it's going to go kind of fast. And you're going to have to write this down. No cameras, please, because, I'm just too tip-top professional. You want to pay me for my, it's really there to create.
well, it's funny because when you're in the class, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but Tiana, I've never even looked at it like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be honest. When they call themselves the master, shoot, excuse me, students, but God damn it, I believe them. Because they are just their showmanship, the way they dress, the way they talk. I aspire to be have a little bit of some of that, into my. It doesn't work, but it definitely, But I never thought of it, in that in that context because they're the master. So I mean,
and let me just say this: I am one of them to the point where I am not, trying to talk about my tribe, but I know my tribe. Okay. And they are there to create difference between you and them. Your ass and Balt sit down there, and I got some cute shoes on, and I got my colors, and I'm looking all successful, and you guys want to be me. So let's just act like it is what it is, and let's open up the books. Don't be asking me no questions or something I don't know about. Because
now Tiana just said something that I don't think like, hey, I'm for team learn. So here's what she has to say. They are technically brand ambassadors to sell um, brands. And Cheryl, you're pointing your fingers at the statement. So I take it, Tiana, you get the bomb of the day. Wow. I honestly, hindsight, you kind of be like, well, I get it now. But at the time when you're in the class, that is not a word. Like, I don't even think I heard of brand ambassadors, honestly, for me, to maybe like 2 years ago. That was not a word that was in my vocabulary. So I would have not been able to even, discern that they could very well have been brand ambassadors to sell the brand. I actually, when someone says that they are a master, colorist or a master stylist or a master barber, you know what? I take their word at it. You know what I'm saying? I just believe them.
Let's just, ladies, let's just be honest, because at the end of the day, master is like a word like diva. We just played it way too much. We don't.
Okay.
There is no deference at all. You don't even want the title no more because it's.
Right.
But to aspire to a level of excellence is what we are, and keeping our customers happy to the point where they just refer us, because of course master is based on performance, and performance is based on who loves to patronize you, and if it makes you a good living, then you have really mastered your craft.
All right. So it's not such a bad thing, guys. Do what you need to do to get them coins out here, but understand there are certain people like Cheryl and Tiana who can see through you. Unlike me, Key Lolo, I ain't got time to be trying to figure out. If you say you're a master, I'd be like, you just better go ahead on and work it and teach me, okay?
Believe me.
So so as we wrap this up, we're going to go just a little bit over, but the question is for what about people who live in like small town America? I always think of our homegirl Esther, who always says, I don't live anywhere near a Cleveland, or an Atlanta or North Carolina or California, where I can even have access to an Afro hair summit or a relaxer course or a coloring class. I'm missing out because of the simple fact I don't have access. And let's not forget, you're a cosmetology student, a barber or a beauty student, you might be a little strapped for cash. So can you just go just a little bit, into access, and when you're just a little bit, just press for cash, but you need that education.
Right. Well, I tell you what, there should be, then, maybe your investment is only yearly. It's not monthly. Afro Science Summit maybe could, we could do, and reference back also to the podcast. It's and go see our YouTube channel, and there is a plethora of information on the podcast, and you could email us, and so everything does not have to be expensive. Some of this stuff is true. I mentor, and so does Ladosha, and it is an email and a phone call away, and so just make the effort. You're going to have a great career. Relax. It's going to take time, and allow the process to happen.
All right. So trust the process. If you don't have access, you don't have funds, you definitely can reach out to us. We are a resource. So is our podcast. And then she said, don't forget about mentorship. Perhaps there really is somebody in your local community that you could just go to their space and, like Cheryl said, just say, hey, because we do understand that is a reality. And we do get that. When we did the Afro Hair Science Summit, we were just kind of overwhelmed with, I don't live in Cleveland. And we were like, oh my gosh, we can't be everywhere. We cannot put that online because it needs to be in person. We thought about it, and it was just like, we may not want to do that live. And then putting the information out there on social, we just don't think that's a good idea for the stuff that's coming out of the Afro Hair Science Summit. So Cheryl's looking like, that's just not going to happen. The information is just, It's too good. I can't deny it. We're gonna wrap this up. This was a wonderful. Oh, by the way, oh, thank you, Hair Savant. What's up, bro? So Hair Savant says there are many stylists that offer free shadowing. I ain't heard that since White Shadow, baby. About White Shadow. Girl,
Oh,
hey,
here,
Hair Savant. They don't know about the White Shadow,
hey, you don't know about that. Hey, boo.
Yeah. So she says, hey, he says that is a way that you can do it. So if you are in one of those small towns, America, wherever you're at around the world, please reach out to your local person. And then, like Cheryl said, rewatch some of our stuff here. And again, we're gonna take. Let me get her name right. I don't want to say it wrong. Where my little notes go? I think it's Miss Vaughn. Yes, Miss Vaughn Smith. She requested that Cheryl and I we talk about re-entering the barber and beauty industry. That's going to be our topic for next week. You can come back here tonight at 6 o'clock. See, this is what Cheryl's talking about. And we're going to be talking about, seriously, guys, mixing and concocting those products. And this is really good for cosmetologists and barbers, because if you want to know, like, what are people doing to their hair at home? Oh my God. This is the podcast for you. And it will also justify why you need to plan to attend the Afro Hair Science Summit, because Cheryl says the science is going to teach you how to extrapolate some of the crap that we're seeing and be able to make some good choices. So we'll be back here at 6 o'clock, and Cheryl's going to really trip out on these videos that I have on mixing and matching, and not scratching and mixing. That's hip hop. Okay. Cheryl, any closing thoughts on continuing education? This was very, very powerful as usual, and thank you all so much. Don't forget to drop your questions in the chat. And the topic again today, it was all about continuing education. Who should do it? Hair care companies or your hair experts? Okay, so any closing thoughts on that topic?
Nothing beats your own study. And when your gut is telling you something, just because there's education doesn't mean it's for you. Be your own discerning investor in where you want to spend your money, and just become just grounded in your own career, and be sure of yourself. And if you don't know something, you feel something, ask. Dumb question is better than a dumb mistake.
Wow, a dumb question is better than a dumb mistake. I like Tiana. She says, you know what? For certain people, it's their job. For her, it's your passion, and that's what
Absolutely.
Cheryl. That's what Cheryl just said. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Don't worry about the money and all the other stuff. We have to be patient. You're just leaving school. You're about to go take your test. You got your whole life ahead of you. All you have is this moment right now. So Cheryl says, Carpe diem, seize the day. All right. Okay. We'll be back here at 6 o'clock this evening. And again, we'll be back next week with the show dedicated to Miss Vaughn Smith, who wants to know all about re-entering the barber and beauty industry. This is going to be definitely profound. And you know what we say when we're signing out here, right? It's always good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better. And guess what, guys? Your better is best. And so we'll see you back here at 6 o'clock. It's just that simple, right, Cheryl?
It's that simple.
All right, deuces. Take care here, Savant, Tiana. We love you guys. Thanks.
It's fun. Mwah.
See you at 6 if you're free, guys. See you at 6. So, you think you can do hair? Then join us every Monday at 12 o'clock on the Afro Hair Science YouTube channel.